what are the 5 most important things today that are going to push your business forward?
Right.
Okay. But do those 5 first, and then you can bring other stuff into the hopper. So that's like, I would say that's 101 prioritization. People always overestimate what can be achieved in a year, but underestimate what can be achieved in a decade.
Yeah.
And I think if you scale that down, I think people worry, like people's to-do lists or their Gantt charts or whatever for the day are like, I'm gonna rule the world today.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you can do 5 things that nudge the dial forward, multiply that by 5, and then look back and go, do you know what? Like this week, I might not have won the war, but actually, like, I've pushed the dial in a few areas. So I'm a firm believer that you're not going to grow yourself, your business, your performance in like your comfort zone, like us sat here chilling out, like we're chilled. But also your stretch zone. So people talk about, performing in your stretch zone. I actually think you need to go past that. And if you go past that, it's kind of like where you're scared. Businesses and leaders that do this really well is they're super clear on, guys, like these 5 things are not changing. They're working well for us. We're going to experiment over here in this petri dish for 3 months with this change.
Yeah.
And then at the end of 3 months, we'll see if it's worth adopting full time.
Well, I promise you, this is the last one. All right. I've got Ben Stocken with me. Ben,
Hello, mate.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate
Love
you're
it
a
to me.
busy man. Everybody in here wants a piece. So I appreciate you taking 5 to sit with me. You did the closing speech, the keynote speech for team conference. I'd love to hear, because I didn't get a chance to hear it because I was sat here working. So I'd love to kind of get a summary of that.
Okay.
And then I'd love to, in your words, get some hints, tips, words of advice, inspiration for business owners that are perhaps going through it at the minute. Because we're half the way through the year now. I think a mindset change could really make the difference for the second half, right? So over to you, man.
Cool. Okay. So the bit you missed in there is about 12:30 today. So the keynote was 3:30. At 12:30 today, my wife WhatsApped me with her normal, like, super positive motivation, which actually I asked one of the women in there to read out, which was, I hope today goes well. Don't be shit. Which is like my wife's standard motivation. So I went in onto the stage, like, super pumped off the back of that, which is good. The keynote today was about just hitting the theme for today, which is like adapt, adopt, win. So what I tried to do was look at my experience of like working for England Rugby and then trying a bunch of ridiculous endurance events, like to try and understand how to improve my own performance, and then package that up in a way that everyone can take away today. Some like key lessons. So the first bit was really about like understanding your why. So Simon Sinek obviously gets a lot of credit for us to start with why, but for me, it's just about making it really, really practical and really visible. So like I've had the benefit of doing like a couple of Ironman races, running through the Sahara Desert. And one of the bits that got me through there was really...
You refer to that as a benefit.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
That's fucking horrendous. Go on.
Okay, at the time, it's horrific. Yeah. But afterwards, it's a warm, glowy experience. Type 2 fun is what I think it's called.
Okay.
But basically, the bits that got me through that was really understanding like why I was there, what's my purpose in the moment, and then I use lots of visual like support cues. So I generally write SAM on the back of my hand, which stands for Sarah, Austin, Morgan. So Sarah's my wife, Austin and Morgan are my boys. And just giving the owners, the entrepreneurs who are in the room today, an understanding that they probably know their why, or they knew their why when they set their business up. Yeah. It's about revisiting that. Is it still the same why? And then how do you make it really visible? So day to day, when you're having a crappy day, how can you re-anchor on actually what's important to you?
I think that's a really important piece there, is that actually, is it still the same? Because I think a lot of people have this, like I fell foul of this, right? We run a recruitment business, fell out of love with it while running it. And, referred to it quite often now in hindsight as like a zombie business. It wasn't dead, it wasn't alive, it was just chugging along, right? And it was sort of like, it's okay to change what's important to you. It's okay to be able to go, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't my why no more, like, But having the strength mentally first to accept that that's the case.
Yeah.
And then going, right, now, how do I reposition what I'm doing to put my why at the forefront,
Yeah. And I think, so there's a self-awareness bit there about I think just putting in your diary, so I think putting in your diary once a quarter to give yourself half a day away from everything to just, and if I'm a firm believer, you don't pre-book that stuff. It never happens because something always gets busier.
Yeah. Your diary's always, yeah. I have my me days.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So there's a bit about understanding your why and using that. And then the next bit was around like really controlling what you can control. So I'm a firm believer that you're not going to grow yourself, your business, your performance in like your comfort zone, like us sat here chilling out, like we're chilled. But also your stretch zone. So people talk about, performing in your stretch zone. I actually think you need to go past that. And if you go past that, it's kind of like where you're scared. And when you feel a little bit scared as a business owner, as a leader, I think that's when you're learning the most.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you can fail a bit, but I think there's this like Goldilocks ring, if you think about 3 concentric circles. And I think that Goldilocks ring, for me, in the leaders I work with, the stuff I've experienced myself and working in elite sport, if you can operate in that ring enough time, then you really see lots of improvements. But you also can't just throw everything to the wall. So the other bit I talked about was like really controlling your controllables. So understanding what we're going to play with this quarter, this month, etc., to push the dial, but what we're going to keep the same. And I think from that's helpful if you've got employees as well. If you can say to them, these 5 things are staying the same, keep doing these things. These are our fundamentals, but we're going to experiment with this stuff. That clarity just flows through the business.
That's often where a lot of business owners get it wrong, because the team often feel like, and I've had managers like this as well, where it's sort of like, every month we're doing something different. And it's not that we're doing something different, we're doing something new in addition to kind of like, right, that worked, now we're trying this bit to elevate what we're doing.
Yeah.
So the manager's got the right idea, or the business owner's got the right idea, but the positioning that they're putting it out there feels like, it just feels like we're doing something new every month. Yeah. But actually, no, you want to hear the thing you need to hear is, this is great.
Yeah.
We're going to count that staying as it is. We're going to introduce the second thing now. And then once we get that right, then this is, you know what I mean? Like it's
and that is so easy to miss that, because we're focused on the change, the business change. And actually what I see in businesses and leaders that do this really well is they're super clear on, guys, like these 5 things are not changing. They're working well for us. Yeah. We're going to experiment over here in this petri dish for 3 months with this change.
Yeah.
And then at the end of 3 months, we'll see if it's worth adopting full time.
I know that. Do you think we suffer as business owners, like this constant need to succeed and be successful? And like that then feeds this kind of anxiety of not feeling good enough. Do you know what I mean? Like I've spoken to a lot of people today, but speak to a lot of these guys and girls out there, and they all say the same thing, which is like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared. I'm worried. Like, you know what I mean? Like it seems like there's this imaginary or arbitrary imagery of success that we paint for ourselves, and unless we're there, we're not doing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You must see a lot of that in the guys and girls you work with.
Yeah, I do. And look, I see it myself as well. And I think I had my last CEO when I was in full-time employment was an incredible, like inspirational CEO and also a good operator. And one of the things that he shared with me, which I've used time and time again, and now I use it with the businesses that I support, is he's like, what are the 5 most important things today that are going to push your business forward?
Right.
Okay. But you do those 5 first, and then you can bring other stuff into the hopper. So that's like, I would say that's 101 prioritization. Then at the end of your week, review those 25 things you've done as an aggregation of actually how far you've moved individual bits across. And that little retrospective just allows you to really like realize quite how much you've done. I think that there's a famous quote, I don't know who to attribute it to, which is like, people always overestimate what can be achieved in a year, but underestimate what can be achieved in a decade.
Yeah.
And I think if you scale that down, I think people worry, like people's to-do lists or their Gantt charts or whatever for the day are like, I'm gonna rule the world today.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you can do 5 things that nudge the dial forward, multiply that by 5, and then look back and go, do you know what? Like this week, I might not have won the war, but actually, like I've pushed the dial in a few areas.
A lot of what you're saying, a lot of what you sort of seem to talk about is all around sort of stoicism and stoic mindset and things like that. How much inspiration do you draw from those sorts of like teachings and learnings and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan, a big student of Stoicism, and I think it is something that I personally have aimed to like really embrace. Like I had quite a chaotic childhood, so I think it came from trying to create order out of my childhood.
Yeah, makes sense of the chaos.
Make sense of the chaos, but also compartmentalize as well and distance a bit from the chaos. So I think there was a bit of accidental Stoicism there, but now like really understanding the benefits of Stoicism as a philosophy, as an outlook on life. Like there's a really interesting field of research around like epigenetics, which is basically the words you use and the thoughts you have influence your physiology. So actually by using negative words, speaking negatively about ourselves, we actually have a physiological impact.
Yeah, you make yourself
anxious and stressed.
Yeah.
But you can do the reverse.
Yeah.
So actually if you think about what you can achieve and you reflect on what you have achieved, you get dopamine secreted, like, and you feel better. Yeah. So it's not woo-woo, like it's science. And I think it can start really simply.
Absolutely. Like I spoke about this earlier in the year on the podcast, right? Where like everybody I'd spoken to, quarter one, smashing it, gonna have a great year. This year is going to be the one, right? And people were doing well. They had candidates out interview, they had new clients onboarded, things were going well, right? And I was sort of like, let's really think about this now. If you walk around with a smile on your face, you tend to have a good day.
Yeah.
You walk around annoyed with the world, you have a shit day. You've got into this year with yes, this year's going to be the one. I'm going to smash it this year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You're manifesting it. You're putting it out there, whatever. You're then going to genuinely have a better time because look, let's be honest, between December 31st, 2025 and the 1st of January, 2026, politically, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Geographically, nothing changed. Economically, nothing changed. There's no real tangible reason why 2026 should be a better year for you. And the 1st of January is just an arbitrary date. What's the thing that's changed? Your mindset. Yeah. And then what ends up happening is they go into quarter two and they're like, oh crap, okay. Actually,
yeah, we're behind.
Yeah,
completely.
Walking around with a smile on my face isn't quite moving the needle enough.
I completely agree. And there's a very cool book that influenced my thought process on this a lot. There's a guy, an author called Dan Pink.
Right.
He wrote a book called When, which is about the science of timing, basically.
Right.
And he talks a lot about starting teams, restarting teams, finishing stuff. And what you just talked about in terms of like the cadence of calendars, like, and people restarting stuff. Like, it's really interesting. Like on a Monday, we have a completely new opportunity to start again.
Yeah.
And clean the slate and go again. We get one of those every morning.
Yeah.
But I think people miss it.
Yeah. Why is Thursday not that day?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be Monday. It doesn't have to be January 1st. It doesn't have to be my birthday. Like it can be tomorrow. It
have to be the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we could literally right now go, do you know what? No, that's from the end of this conversation, this is how I'm approaching things.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like, nah, let me go through the rest of the day being really shitty with everything. Monday I'll do something better.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I hypothesize that for some people, like that's super easy. For other people, I think that takes some self-awareness, some training in terms of being able to just let stuff go.
Yeah.
And that could be the challenge. Like people who care an awful lot about their business and their customers and their staff, if you can't detach the emotions from the output, then I think you can struggle.
I think that's the biggest learn I've seen over the last sort of like 3 years of doing this is that business owners are their own biggest problem in that they stand in their own way. But they're the bottleneck to the change because all the information's out there. We're not talking about anything revolutionary or new. You know, there's enough information out there for somebody to come across this and go, yeah, but maybe I need to do this more, less of this, you know, that kind of thing. But it's the reluctance to want to change. But that seems to be shifting now, right? What do you think's driving that shift? Why are people now becoming that much more self-aware than maybe the generation above us were?
That's a fantastic question. I think popular culture. I think popular culture and the acceptance of personal development, improving yourself is it's more accepted.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you're going to read a self-help book. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, you know, therapy, coaches, people being reflective and using other people and their experiences to be able to really reflect on where they're at and are they happy with that and what's next for them. I think that's become more popular. I also think that the world has got faster, crazier, and more chaotic. And I think that's amazing, eh? I think faster, crazier, and more chaotic.
Who's that? Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's not like we're filming.
Faster, crazier, and more chaotic.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
Yeah. Speaking of vacuums or inflators.
It's fine. No, we're wrapping up in a bit.
Okay, cool. So faster, crazier, more chaotic. And so I think actually people have just reacted to the crazy world that's going on around them and trying to control what they can control. Yeah. Which is ultimately how I interact with the world.
Yeah. No, I love that. Mate, I want to thank you for your time. Tell us about your podcast.
Cool.
Your podcast.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Which is great on this amazing platform. So I've got a podcast called The Human Loop. It's the first podcast of its type that uses behavioral science in real time to score leaders on how well they answer a challenge question. I'm interviewing CEOs, founders, C-suite people to really understand how they react to a real life leadership situation, and then able to use Ethereo's, my business's behavioral intelligence engine to score them and like Top Gear sort of leaderboard style. We've got a leaderboard. Cybor is at the top at the moment.
And he's either top, to be fair, he deserves it. What a guy.
It's really good fun, and it's interesting to see how people react to it in real time.
I love that, mate. Honestly, best of luck with the podcast. Guys, those of you who want to connect with Ben, find out more about the podcast, follow the podcast, watch it, get involved. Everything you need will be in the description below. I believe that is it for us now. So thank you, as always, for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the cool things you guys do. Let me do this for a job. New episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday, sometimes a Tuesday, sometimes a Thursday as well, when there's bonus episodes to be thrown out there. Pick one of those and I'll see you then. Ciao.